And today I have a layout using the page map sketch from March of 2020. This is the sketch that I'm going to be using, and I actually follow the sketch pretty well, except for the very far left hand side. I'm going to add a 4x6 photo instead of a 6x4 photo. This is the first layout that I'm using with the I Love Winter collection from Echo Park, and I'm super excited to get these layouts completed. Like I told you in my snow series intro, I am going to be using photos that are not necessarily snow, but I bought all of this collection and I want to get it used up. Since it is my first layout, I do decide to pull out this like plaid blue and red paper as part of my background paper, just because it's such a large piece and I didn't want to use such a large piece right off the bat. I am cutting up the wood grain paper with all of the snow characters, like the kid in the snow and the snowman, for the back piece, but I actually end up changing that because I feel like I needed a darker contrast back there. So I'm gonna pull out this red paper that has white polka dots on it and use that instead. And I decided to use the wood grain paper over to the far left hand side so that I can still bring in that piece of paper. So once I get all of the papers down, I am going to go ahead and cut my photos down. There are 3 photos that they're taken far enough away that I can cut them down to a 3x3. And then I have the photo of one of the little guys jumping on this, I think it's a jumping pillow. And so you could see like the knucklehead sign, which is where this location is. And I have that 4x6 photo on the far left-hand side. I go ahead and add some distress ink to all of the sides in Faded Jeans, which is like a perfect navy color. And then I also use my border punch to cut out a border on that red and white polka dot paper. Once I get the paper down, I realize that I'm covering up a lot of that red paper, so I decide to use my X-Acto knife and cut out the center for the right-hand side, because it does show on the top and bottom, but also over on the far right-hand side it shows, so I did just kind of cut out a little piece. I first started out with a little border there and then realized that, oops, I was supposed to cover the whole layout, so go ahead and pull that up and add it back down at the very top. And once I get that piece down, then I'm going to go ahead and add this plaid right to the top of it. Now that plaid paper, I bought a pack of 25 because not only do I love the plaid paper and I think that it works with a lot of Echo Park layouts, but that wood grain on the back is really pretty too. And I think that's from like one of their ocean scenes. And then for the left-hand side, I just needed this like really tiny piece of red and white polka dot paper. So I go ahead and cut that out and add that to the top and bottom, since it does go right to the edge. That's all I really needed. And then I can add that plaid right on top of it. Then I add the wood grain paper down, and that actually is going to come up later, and you'll see that in just a second. So I'm adding the different photos down, and you can see here that the photos really do line up with the sketch, except for the very far left-hand side. Instead of 2 6x4 photos, I'm going to add a 4x6 photo, and then I'm also going to add a smaller card. I pull out my dies, and I was going to use this paper here. This is from Nicole Jones' 911 collection. She has some grid paper, but it got lost in the plaid paper in the back. So then I pulled out this tone-on-tone navy blue paper, and I really like the way that that looks, but it's just not large enough. So then I decide to pull out just a piece of the navy paper, and I'm going to use one of my Martha Stewart's punches. It's a scallop punch, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to give a rounded edge without having necessarily a rounded edge. I don't do the best of job. You can definitely tell if you look really closely that it's like kind of cut on an angle, but I'm probably the only person that's going to notice. And if somebody else is noticing, they're looking at the wrong thing in my layout. So I go ahead and add that down, and I'm just lining that up, and then I'm going to use my X-Acto knife on the back to cut it apart. And it makes it a little bit easier when you are trying to make sure that it's straight. Then I pull out my Creative Memories circle cutter, and I use that with a pencil to just line up a circle. And I'm going to use this red thread. I use embroidery thread. It's a 6-string embroidery thread. I pull it apart so that there's 3 strings, so it's kind of half of what's on the embroidery thread. And I just do a back stitch to do a circle on that. Then I'm going to use this title of All Bundled Up, and I'm going to put that on some fun foam. And I did leave a little bit of this in just to show you that I kind of line it up, and then I pull the fun foam down a little bit and cut underneath so that it goes almost to the edge of the picture, or for this one, the title, things like that. I decided I was going to use this little 3x4 card. I do cut him down. I think he ends up being like 3x3. And when I put him down, I do put him up on fun foam, but then I realize that he gets lost in the wood grain because he has wood grain on the back of him, and then there's wood grain on the back of the paper as well. And I just didn't like the way that it looked. It was just too much wood grain. So I'm going to think about that for a minute, and I will come back to it. I do go ahead and put that little owl over there on the right, and then I decide, yep, that has got to go. So I bring out the paper. On the back of it, it is like this navy color, and it has all kinds of fun snow words. Things like snow, wonderful, snowman, hot cocoa, just things that you would find, you know, in winter paper. And so I go ahead and add that down, and then I'm going to add the photos back down as well as with that little card. And then over on the left, I have another little owl on a card, and it says The Magic of Snow. And then right underneath the title, I do go ahead and add One Cold Day, and also add a navy snowflake to the right-hand side right underneath that owl. Now, I did also purchase the rub-ons for this collection. Not a big fan of rub-ons, and I remember why, because most of the rub-ons don't really work very well. But I did add the word bundle up over on the far right-hand side, and I'm actually going to incorporate that into my journaling. I also add on the left-hand side another rub-on, which is just a little mason jar that has like snowflakes in it. And then I'm looking for a couple other pieces. I really like when my clusters, I feel like they are like bursting out. Most of the items that I have in my clusters are going to touch, but then I always have like one or two pieces that feel like it's just floating away, and I really like the way that that looks. I know that there's lots of different people who do different types of things in regards to their clusters. Either they all have to touch or nothing has to touch. It's really whatever works for you. Down at the bottom on the left-hand side, I do go ahead and add another little cluster there. I start out with a big blue circle that has a snowflake on it, and then I'm going to add a brad as well as a little chipboard piece that says, "Oh, what fun," and then I'm also going to add a little circle with a blue snowflake on it as well. Then I bring out my fireworks, and this is just splatters, very similar to Martha Stewart's splatters in like a navy blue color, and I use that on kind of all the white pieces. I'm just using a piece of packaging to cover up my photos. I do get a little bit on the title and on that owl, but I'm okay with that. You can see there that I have pulled out my phone, and I just pulled up the location of where we were, so at Knuckleheads, and I was just trying to look for some main keywords like what they were on, which was called the jumping pillow. I wanted to make sure that I had those right. So I have a lot of journaling on this page. This page is really more about the fact that if you look in those photos, you can see that our boys are in long sleeve shirts and pants, and they have on wool socks, whereas Malachi, who lives up in Illinois, has on shorts, and he does have a long sleeve shirt on, but he has his sleeves pulled up, and he's just enjoying it, definitely not bundled up like we are. And so I have the very last sentence of the journaling says, "We bundle up because we're from the South." All right, everyone, here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I hope that you guys enjoy these layouts that I'm getting done. I'm super excited about being able to get this Wisconsin trip documented and using these papers that I purchased for it, even though we didn't end up seeing a whole lot of snow. All right, everyone, if you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.